Hi, welcome to our podcast, Luxury Space Gay Communists, I guess. It's me, Variola, and June today. We're going to be talking about color revolutions, Kazakhstan, Russia, tanky shit, I guess. Would you
Just
like to
like
introduce
shit.
yourselves? Yes.
Well, I'm Jun Sankara. Glad to see you.
Hi, I'm Variola. I'm from Eastern Europe, but I don't speak Russian. And I once met a Kazakh person. Yay.
I've also met a Kazakh person once.
Well,
Also met a Uzbekistani person a few times. But
I haven't met anyone. I don't go outside. All right, you want to introduce what a color revolution is, Sankara?
yeah, no, I mean, just the definition off of my head, but I think like a color revolution, you see pop up in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. I think it's usually a revolution that can signal left wing and anti-authoritarian aesthetics, but usually it's to serve an imperial power. In those decades, usually it was the U.S. and European Union to liberalize an economy and move said states into Western access, or Western bloc.
They usually want to privatize and more or less move to a market economy, complete.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
today's examples. I mean, you have like the Hong Kong protests. You have Juan Guaido in Venezuela. You had the Cuban protests this last year, and I mean, they all signal like we're pro this and pro that freedom, but usually it would be a right wing backslide.
yeah, I don't think like even Hong Kong protests are typical color revolution because they are already market economy, liberal. They don't have a like liberal parliament and institutions.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
of Hong Kong, I think of Hong Kong, they still wanted more autonomy away from like the CPC per se. I mean, it's not a typical color revolution, but I think it was a
typical
revolution. Yeah.
Oh, is it
orange,
attempted?
Georgia revolution, and so on.
Yeah. Uh, as a ex Yugoslav member of society, how do you analyze them in Eastern Europe?
Like the color revolutions, or
Yeah, I guess color revolutions in Eastern Europe.
I mean they're obviously like I mean anti-Russian and anti-authoritarian. Like if you live in that country, you're going to feel better if you're going to actually have a parliament and vote for it and have some for democracy instead of authoritarian.
Yeah,
But for economic standards, it depends. Depends on your class background, depends on your education. If you're educated, aspiring bourgeois, then you're going to welcome all the color, all that liberalization is bringing to you. If you're a
yeah,
worker, that means it probably means that your standard is going to fall.
yeah. I don't know enough about Eastern Europe, but isn't it true that with a few of these countries, I mean, you have the rise of fascism across Eastern Europe, but even like the Baltic states, I mean, like Lithuania, aren't some of them, even though they're democracies, they're kind of like just completely run by oligarchs?
I mean, not. I don't know if Baltic states are run by oligarchs. I know they're
Yeah,
just quite right wing culturally
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
Like they don't accept they don't accept LGBT rights. They're quite more similar to culture and the way of thinking to Russians than to Western Europeans. Like they
yeah,
also have
yeah,
they're similar. Like in Russia, you have 10-year gap between mortality for men and for women. Usually, it's 5, maybe 3 or something in the Western Europe. But in Russia, it's 10-year gap, and it's similar
women
to
live
back.
longer in Russia.
Yeah, by 10 years.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So they're also they're conservative, much more. They're more closer to Russian than to, even though politically they don't like them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was just listening to a few podcasts in like Lithuania recently, but I heard there's kind of like the rehabilitation of like Nazi adjacent people within Lithuania. But I'm just spewing what I heard.
They're really anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
I know that in Latvia there were some like Jewish community was complaining. Like in ex-Yugoslavia, they are going to, like during the 90s, and when the war was going on, all sides were accusing each other of anti-Semitism to prove to the world how the others are anti-Semites, fascists, and we're not.
Yeah.
So both were horrible far-right national. I mean, Slobodan Milosevic was nominally left-wing, and maybe his internal policies, such as they were, non-existent. They were nominally left-wing, but his external policies were to new neighbors, former republics, were pretty right.
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
But
I guess
about Kazakhstan. What?
Oh, sorry. You go.
About Yugoslavia, I don't know. Like I know that Tudjman, that is basically Croatian president in the 90s. Social Democrats got elected in 97, 98. I don't know which year exactly, to be mayor of Zagreb, and he just didn't allow them. He said, "We need the re-election so you can elect a right-wing party, my party." So that is the extent.
I guess a quick question for you before we move on to Kazakhstan. So I guess what do you make of Euromaidan in 2014 in Ukraine, and how would that look like in other ex-Soviet states?
I mean, Ukraine is by far the poorest country in Europe.
Yeah.
And so they want to be they want to have economic stability.
Yeah.
And it is a somewhat divided country, not among left, right wing, but among like east and north of the country. They support West more, and they want to become part. Even though they're conservatives, they don't support gay rights and whatever other West stands for, but they want to become part of it. And the east part and Crimea, especially, they want to be allied with Russia more. So then you had a bunch of presidents, Yakunovich or whoever. Yakunovich, I don't know, who were pro-Russian. Then they fell, and the other side wanted to ally with EU.
Yeah.
And then Putin then said, "We'll have none of that because I don't want." I don't want NATO country that borders me. I don't want to be encircled. And then he destroyed the country.
Yeah.
He took Crimea and destroyed east of Ukraine. And if you meet Ukrainians today, like in Europe, and if you hang around in Eastern Europe with migrants, you're going to meet a lot of Ukrainians. Some of them are even openly going to be pro-Russian.
Yeah.
So
like you said, isn't it kind of like a split where it's like the Eastern Ukraine, right, is more pro-Russian and Western Ukraine is more pro, I guess, NATO?
But even like, look at what's happening. Like, these people, they think we're going to reform 5-10 years, we're going to enter EU. No, they're not going to enter EU. Because look at what's happening in Balkans. Like with the Western Balkan states like North Macedonia, Albania, Kosovo, Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro.
Yeah.
They are entering EU for how many years now?
Hasn't it been like 15?
Well, not 15, 20 minimally. 20 years minimally, and they're still not going to enter it because you need to have some standard. Economy needs to be in some needs to be higher standard. You need to have higher GDP. You need to have less employment, and you need to have a rule of law. Like you need that is also a requirement that all these states fail on.
Yeah.
Even though Serbia also has and Kosovo has a problem as well with four EU states don't recognize them. Four, and Serbia has a problem that they have Kosovo. They want to be part of their territory, but it just isn't.
Isn't Kosovo and Serbia kind of similar to other like states in Europe, with like Spain, who has like a separatist movement too? So they kind of wouldn't want that. Yeah, Catalonia.
Yeah, like you have four states that don't recognize Kosovo: Spain, Slovakia, Greece, and Cyprus. No, five. Romania too. Is it Romania?
We all have separatist movements.
Romania too, and they don't recognize it, and they would actually, if Kosovo today wanted to enter the Union, they would block it. They said so. But if Serbia recognized Kosovo, then all five states would recognize Kosovo too. But you said like all of those four states have a separatist problem. Cyprus, Romania, everyone except Greece. Greece are just extremely pro-Serbian. And for Cyprus. So that is why they don't support it.
And then with Ukraine too, so what's the deal with the Nazi problem within Western Ukraine? To what extent, like how serious is that, and how entrenched is it within the politics?
So I compare it, like I don't know in Ukraine exactly. I compare it to what happened during the 90s in Croatia. Like you had this, in Croatia and Serbia too, you had this movement political that were not as strong. Like Milosevic's Socialist Party and Tudjman's HDZ. So they lacked full support to do their authoritarianism. So then they allied with far right.
Yeah.
So they could be aggressive, wage war, and so they could get some political or more political support. So I think that's what's happening in Ukraine as well. The pro-West is allying with the Nazis, with neo-Nazis and fascists or neo-fascists, whatever, because they don't have much support as they would want to. They don't have political capital to deal with these problems. And even today in Croatia, EU member state, they still have a big Ustasha problem. Those are Croatian far rights.
Yeah. So I was asking about Ukraine, but so I guess then with the Kazakhstan situation, I guess we're going to move on to there. So I guess do you think this signals anything like a color revolution, or if it's more of an actually organic working class, or if it's like more of a liberal revolution per se?
I mean, one thing I think that all these color revolutions, working class played part in all of this. Like,
of course, you can't deny that. Yeah,
they go on into the streets, they demand changes, and then they get neoliberalism.
Yeah,
which hurts the working class the most. But But I want to first talk about Kazakhstan a little bit, because I think most people, especially in US, they think Kazakhstan is Borat, horrible place. I don't know.
Yeah, all the racist stereotypes.
Yeah, another race. I mean, mostly due to Borat. Like Kazakhstan is actually quite a rich country. I mean, rich for ex-Soviet standards. I think they are actually the richest of all ex-Soviet republics, bar Baltics. So they're doing quite well.
Yeah.
And they have like Kazakhs are the biggest majority, but they also have like Russian minorities and a bunch of other things. And they, like the one Kazakh person I met, I don't know about you, but they look at other other Central Asians, other stans. They said, oh, they come to Kazakhstan to work like poor migrants, to work the worst jobs.
Yeah.
Did you speak with Kazakh that you met?
Yeah, the Kazakh guy I met, he was in his like 40s. He had some interesting things to say politically. So what he told me was, so he said he came to the U.S. to like earn money, but he told me he regretted it. And that he said, this might be, I don't know if he's from a wealthier background or not, but he was telling me how in Kazakhstan, how the standard of living is a lot better than here, and that it's like healthcare and housing isn't something you have to like worry about as much as here. And then when we talked like Russia and stuff, he was pretty anti-Russian and very anti-Soviet. But he seemed to have like kind of like left-wing politics for America. That's all I got from him, really.
Interesting.
You spoke much more with about politics than I spoke with the Kazakh I met.
Yeah, I just kind of we dabbled into it.
No, the Kazakh I met was also like older guy. He's like in his 40s, and he was an engineer. He was he was on like study trip, business trip.
Yeah.
So he was probably like a little bit wealthier.
Yeah, I imagine usually people who come over out there. It was kind of funny because we were talking politics, and this guy was it was me and my partner and him, and he was shitting all over America and how much he hated. We support, something like the Soviet, you hate Russians or something.
I mean, I know this guy spoke much better Russian than he spoke English. That was obvious.
I think isn't there a thing of Kazakhs not liking? I think the Russians had some pretty chauvinistic policies in Kazakhstan, right, or the Soviet Union, where they deported a lot of nationalities to Kazakhstan, and then a lot of Russians ended up like kind of. I mean, isn't a large minority population in Kazakhstan Russian? I think during the Soviet Union, they often held like higher government positions within the Kazakh Republic.
Yeah, they like exported everyone. They exported ethnic Germans, Jewish people to. But I think like the Russian minority are in Kazakhstan are even pre-Soviet Union. Like they're from
Way back. Yeah. Part of the reason too might be because Kazakhstan is doing so well post-Soviet Union that they don't look back on it fondly.
Yeah, most likely. But Russians, they expect every ex-Soviet country to speak Russian to them.
Yeah.
Like I even know Ukrainian whose native language is Russian, and in this group I was in, there was a Georgian girl who spoke Russian, and this guy expected her to speak Russian to him, and she didn't want to.
Also, Kazakhstan GDP decreased by 40% between 2013 and 2017. That's when they were doing a new privatization plan where they privatized 60 major state-owned corporations and are trying to reduce the state's participation in the economy to 15%.
Yeah, that is why I think this is not a classic color revolution, because they are already doing what Kyle said, and they like had foreign investors already in the country. Chevron is, I don't know, 80 million.
Yeah.
Or 80 million in oil industry investments. So it's already starting, and I think people are actually protesting against that.
Yeah, because they also removed the subsidies for the oil prices and gas prices as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Oh, sorry, we're gonna say.
That's how this revolution was happening started. They removed the gas prices, and then all the build-up anger exploded.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I
it
think
kind of seems like things are getting worse for the past like decade.
Yeah, there are protests since whole last decade. There were protests.
yeah.
Like 2013, 18, 16. So yeah.
I was just say it's disappointing seeing so many like left people online who are calling it a color revolution so early. Because you see people saying like, oh yeah, the global south is going to be where all revolutions come from or something. But whenever there is one, they're like, oh, it's a color revolution.
Yeah, I don't think I don't feel comfortable calling Kazakhstan global south country.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Periphery, imperial periphery.
Yeah, that's more like it.
It's actually
Yeah,
pretty interesting. Kazakhstan's largest export partner is China.
yeah. Well, China actually already condemned it, but it's interesting because I think the U.S. has condemned it as well. So it's actually interesting to have every single major power has condemned um, the protests. Such
Yeah,
it's
and
interesting.
Russia and their allies have already went into Kazakhstan to help prop up the government.
Yeah.
But
One thing I think will be interesting in this following week is that I think the Biden and Putin are meeting. But I think US has condemned it so far, but I wouldn't be surprised if the US government tries to find an ally within the protest movement.
I mean, the thing about protest movement is there is no leadership. No
Exactly,
one.
so it's easy to co-opt.
I mean,
A lot
another.
of I was gonna
Yeah,
say a lot of issues with the protests in like most places is like there's no okay, I fucking hate to say it, party or like organization like guiding the anger of like the workers and like the people in general.
Are you saying there's no vanguard, Kyle?
No, I'm not saying that at all. But like you'd
That's true.
see, like the successful revolutions always had like a leadership more or less,
Yeah.
a representation of like the demands of the people or like someone receptive.
I think this is still exciting. I mean, if it is, I really think it was organic. I think you see even before like the Russian Revolution, you had a lot of like spontaneous movements in Russia or throughout Europe. So I feel like a spontaneous movement is still better than nothing.
True, yeah, it usually will get some sort of reforms or changes as well.
Yeah, and it gives an opportunity for people to see like the power they have. I mean, I think they have pretty huge demands, and then maybe they can start to organize. I think it's also true. I've seen a lot of the I guess the Communist Party is banned in Kazakhstan, but a
Yeah,
lot
it
of like
is.
left wing groups in Kazakhstan have been supporting it. That being said, a lot of them are like Trotskyist groups and such. So take it how it
Well, it's
is.
kind of,
I don't think
well,
Communist Party. And
yeah, they did.
I think it
There's
is. Yeah.
yeah, they split. There's two communist parties. One of them got banned.
oh,
They also banned multi-party for like a couple decades in Kazakhstan. It was like mostly all right-wing parties for a while. There's two communist parties, and there's like the one from the Soviet Union that ended up getting banned, and a newer one that split from that one.
The BOG one.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if there's even like a coherent set of demands. I mean, I'm not sure to what. I've seen these ones highlighted. I'm not sure how big they are, but I saw some of the demands are to like remove Russian as an official language, to like leave Sisto or whatever it's called, and like to condemn the Soviet Union as like a crime against humanity or something like that. But I'm not sure those are actually like major demands or not.
well, it's kind of interesting because Kazakhstan's actually like an authoritarian country, though.
Yeah, but have you heard of the gazillion million people who died in the Soviet Union?
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Make sure you think about it next time, Tommy.
Stalin was good, and the Gulag, the people deserved what happened to them.
I guess my next thought though is so because this seems to be a result of the energy crisis peak, I wonder I wonder if this kind of if this could sell I feel like could it get Occupy in the Arab Spring all kind of spread really quickly, kind of like a fire. I wonder if this Kazakh protests, because you have similar issues throughout the region, if like these protests could spread across Eurasia.
That'd be really interesting. I think that could happen, actually. That
Yeah,
depends. Because you had Tunisia, which was actually really successful, and it like spread to the rest
yeah,
of the Arab world, but the other ones weren't as successful, or like things
yeah,
reverted back to the way they were, like in Egypt.
yeah. I mean, even Occupy. Where did Occupy start? Did Occupy start in the U.S. or did it start in like Spain?
I think it was the U.S., wasn't it?
The reason I thought it started in Spain, maybe that's not true, but I think it got big in the U.S. anyway. Maybe that's a U.S. bias.
Apparently, Occupy Wall Street, the name was taken from a Tumblr post.
Okay.
I think I saw that somewhere. Like, there's like a Tumblr called like Occupy, and they just took that name.
Very millennial.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it started in Spain. Occupy.
Yeah, España.
Yeah, but
Spain
it did
had
not. Occupy was a fluke.
That was a fluke, yeah. I think the best thing that came out of Occupy was it. I think it set the tone for the decade. I mean, I think you left politics are now something that's actually discussed, at least in the U.S., but I feel like across the imperial core, it kind of brought them back to light. But other than that, Occupy was complete nothing.
seems like it kind of rekindled socialism a bit in America.
I think it did. I think it reunited because I think it was dead before that.
Pretty much. Because
With,
neoliberalism had won.
Yeah,
but Occupy ended with Trump winning elections.
in 2016. Yeah.
but
But I think it was I
he still
think
had.
we had Bernie Sanders doing so well.
Yeah, exactly.
Um
He
I
almost beat
I do think
Hillary.
I hate to say it, but I think like Trump obviously wasn't a working class president, but I think he won based on running on working class aesthetics because he came out against like NAFTA, and I think people look at the trade policies and immigration as like economic issues, as stupid as that is. While like Hillary was kind of like, I'm going to continue the same.
Yeah, like Trump ran as like I'm going to help the working class by banning these Mexicans and getting us out of NAFTA and leaving the rest of the world.
Drain
Then
the
Yeah,
like
Drain the
he,
swamp was the. I
the
mean, it was
slogan.
Mac.
Yeah,
Drain the swamp.
yeah.
Biggest slogan.
Which I mean, obviously, I think the whole thing was that like Trump was a hypocrite, but I mean, I think he ran. I think he was successful because he tapped into the populist sentiment.
yeah, he was also like he was like nouveau riche too. Like he had
Yeah,
money. He acted like he was new money. Like he
yeah,
like talked shit and like he talked like he like pulled the whole working. He was like, pretending to be working class by talking like being an asshole to people.
yeah. I mean, I think him and George Bush kind of played the similar card, where both of them, like it's like the whole world like mocks both of them for like having terrible grammar and like not knowing words, but I think that like was successful for them because they come off as very like
Down
proletarian, even though
to
they're both super rich.
yeah, down to earth and like
Yeah,
people are like, oh, I want to get a beer with Bush. I couldn't get
yeah.
a beer with Al Gore.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was even though like it's kind of goofy because like with both Trump, like once the Republicans almost never actually win a majority of votes like in our lifetime. Like George Bush, the second time was the first time he didn't win the popular vote, and Trump didn't win it either time.
Yes, Bush won in 2004. That's about
2000
it.
so it's the second time, and that was like with the Iraq War and
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah,
And yeah, so the
9/11.
first time he lost the popular vote, and then Trump lost it the other time.
Rip Al Gore. Could have saved the world from
Yeah,
global warming.
yeah.
Al Gore invented the internet. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. He's responsible for all of this.
Oh, glory. The alternate timeline where we're all microchipped. Did any of you guys watch the Q Shaman interview?
No, it seemed very horrific.
I listened. It was weird, to be honest. It was pretty bad. Um, there's not much to say. It was interesting. It was interesting just hearing like his thoughts. He definitely believes in the whole like the ball stuff.
Yeah, this is why you don't get educated in Arizona.
Yeah, it was funny because he was like, "Yeah, I do a ton of drugs," and he was like, "So, but I've been studying for hours, and like, listen, man, like, you know, Pizzagate was real. Like, what did he say? They like eat the adrenaline of people. Yeah,
Adrenochrome.
yeah. That was the first time I heard about that.
I've heard about that several times at my old job because oh my fucking
Oh my
god,
god.
all these QAnoners.
Luckily, I've had MAGA repellent recently, but I haven't heard all the Q conspiracies. But damn, they're wild.
They're crazy, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, there's so many fucking QAnon and conspiracies.
yeah.
Especially at my old job. Like, holy shit, they all believe in crazy things.
Um, for our next podcast, we'll be talking fascism, U.S. or Europe,
Yes,
Definitely.
or red tube.
or bread tube.
Yeah, but also we forgot to say at the beginning that we have Discord and to invite people, and now
Oh
no
yeah,
one
you
is
should.
going.
Yeah, no one's gonna join.
Yeah, come join the Discord. Um, we're actually all secret rightists.
Yes. We promise not to bully you, I guess. We can't promise that at all, actually. You will get bullied by someone.
Yeah, don't have anime profile pic.
No anime profile pic or furry
Also,
profile pic.
and also you need to be older than 18. Hopefully older than 20, because we barely tolerate 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Like, comment, subscribe. You can check us out on every podcasting website, and give us some money on Patreon if you want to, so Vera can come to America.
No,
Oh yeah.
actually, I don't know if I want to come to America.
That's
I
okay.
saw where Kyle lives today. It's all good. Don't need to come.
Oh, we'll bring you here.
Exactly. You have nowhere to go. American imperialism.
Yeah.
Oh
Hey,
yeah, yes
happy
or no?
20.
Do you think it's a color revolution? Kazakhstan.
Me, no, but watch out for U.S. co-opting movement.
Actually, I think this whole thing is going to fail.
Oh yeah, probably.
So I don't think US is going to co-opt anything. They're just going to kill a bunch of people and everything's going to return to normal. Maybe some reforms, and that's it.
I don't know if they'll
Fair
reverse
assistance.
the neoliberal policies they've been doing though.
No, they're not going to. They're going to give a little bit of social, a little bit of welfare state, and that's going to be it.
Hey, just
Yeah.
like everywhere else.
Yay!
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Happy New Year.